Wouldn't it be so convenient for every ex who ever betrayed you if you just quietly took all of their crap, sat down, shut up, and disappeared? Of course it would, because you see, it becomes very inconvenient when you finally stand up for yourself and, heaven forbid, have an opinion about the way that you are being mistreated. Users, losers, breadcrumbers, and avoidants who cannot take accountability, they do not like to be confronted. Hello friends, my name is Maria, and for almost 20 years, none of the people that I dated seemed to appreciate it very much when I had an opinion over how I felt I should be treated in relationships. You see, avoidance, they didn't want to hear about it then. They certainly don't want to hear about it now. But I guess it's a good thing that we have the platform. So grab that bottle of nail polish and let's talk. None of us like to feel targeted or demonized. And you see these phrases all over the internet. Avoid the avoidant at all costs. And dear avoidant, please stop dating. Now, I can imagine that if you had an avoidant attachment, these phrases are pretty offensive. And I have an avoidant woman who has a question for me today. She wants to know why, if we all have unhealed attachment wounds, why are avoidants the only one out there that seems to be getting just such bad press? Now, all I can really do is answer this question from my personal perspective and my experiences in life. And if any of you down in the comments, if you would like to contribute your insight and maybe have some respectful answers for Lee Chrissy, I encourage you to do that today. So let's listen to the question. My question is, if you are getting triggered by an avoidant because your insecurities are brought to the surface, and the avoidant is getting triggered by you because their insecurities are brought to the surface, how does this make you, like anxious people, any better than the avoidant? It's two people unhealed and unaware of their issues, yet it seems like anxious people get a pass while avoidants are demonized. It's confusing to me. I've dated anxious men and I am an avoidant. They become obsessive, clingy, drove by my house, yes, more than one did this, called a lot, picked fights over everything. It felt intrusive and borderline abusive. Compare that with me, who goes quiet because conflict makes me uncomfortable. I don't feel the need to see each other and talk all the time. And I take space when things get overwhelming. I'm trying to understand how the anxious behavior is better and more excused. Both are unhealthy and make the other person feel unsafe. Well, I first want to say that I'm very sorry you were ever in abusive relationships that made you feel unsafe. We should all, at the very least, feel safe with the person that we are dating. Here's why anxious people feel a little disgruntled when it comes to their breakups with avoidant partners. We go through a breakup with an avoidant, and then we learn about avoidant attachment. And then what we find out is the deck was stacked against us the entire time. And wow, it can be a little bit comforting knowing that maybe you shouldn't take the breakup so personally. You shouldn't take the fact that they need so much space so personally. It might not have anything to do with you. It still makes you feel like you got a little bamboozled, and people don't like feeling like they got the wool pulled over their eyes and they were tricked. You say in your question that you are someone who doesn't feel the need to talk all the time. You can shut down, you like your own space. But let me ask you something. Well, actually, I'm not going to talk directly to you because I know you're in therapy and I don't know your story. So why don't I go ahead and just ask this to whoever might be avoidant out there who's watching this video. Did you make the fact that you really like space and you don't want to talk all the time very clear when you first started dating the person that you were with. You see, and this isn't me. This is from the #1 selling book on avoidance called Avoidant. The first indication that the avoidant person is having a problem with the relationship is the breakup itself. And you say that we get triggered, but here's how I feel about it. If you have someone who comes into your life and they bring you happiness and you're having fun together and they're telling you all of these wonderful things, you're texting all day long and they're like, you're so great and this is the happiest I've been, this is the best relationship that I've had in years. And then all of a sudden, this person tries to take all of that and pull it away from you. Of course you're going to go like this. You don't want them to go away. Is it really being triggered? Or is it, I am in love with this person who has also told me that they love me, and I don't want them to leave my life because I'm a human being. And yeah, I just love them. And this isn't just me. There is comment after comment, thousands, maybe 1 million at this point, not just on my channel, all over the internet of this same pattern going on when an avoidant person breaks up with an anxious person who, quite frankly, might have been more secure before that breakup happened. I'm a person who definitely leans more anxious, but I can still have relationships with people who don't trigger me as much. And the more I've learned about myself, the more I was able to go out into the dating world and be like, ooh, that person, they're a trigger nightmare. A relationship with them might be fun, but it wouldn't work out in the long run because it would trigger me too much and it would drive me nuts. So I was able to adjust the kind of people that I was dating and then ultimately have a partner that I feel totally secure with. The thing about avoidance is what triggers you is relationships and closeness and vulnerability. Relationships are naturally made to become closer over time. The more you get to know someone, the more you hang out with them, one person in that relationship is definitely going to they're going to fall in love with you. And when they fall in love with you, they are naturally going to want to spend more time with you. And I don't think this is an anxious person problem. I think it's just very human. You love someone, you want to get closer to them, you want to spend more time with them. And if this is the way that relationships are designed, it means ultimately every person that an avoidant dates is going to get dumped. Any time in life that you love someone, when they try to take themselves away from you, you're going to get anxious. See, this is feelings, okay? We are not blocking our feelings. So when someone we love goes away from us, we can't numb it out. And that's another reason why we are so dang upset, because we feel like you guys can just tra-la-la into the sunset and you have like this ability to just shut it all down, and we don't. And we overanalyze and we ruminate and we tear ourselves to shreds. You think avoidant people are demonized? Let me tell you, especially with anxious, preoccupied people, we are our own worst critics. I can't tell you how many people that I have talked to over my encouragement phone calls. And if you'd like to talk to me on the phone, I will put a link to those sessions down below. But these people, they're so interesting to talk to. And I've seen photos of them. They are beautiful. Well, welcome to the other half, where we know attraction is not just about looks. We also have to take care of the inner half. Because if we go into the dating world feeling like not only do we enjoy the validation and the compliments from people who have avoidant attachment disorder, but if we feel like we need that person in order to feel those things about ourselves, then we don't really know people very well when we first start dating them. And if they do have an attachment style that doesn't really work very well with ours and they leave us, we're going to believe that they are taking all of those good things about us away with them. And it's going to make the breakup that much more traumatic, and it's going to bring out even more insecurities and anxious habits. And when people get desperate not to lose someone, and I mean desperate, then yes, I feel like that's when you have a situation with a stalker or someone who is making dangerous threats to an avoidant person or themselves, because unfortunately, the way that they see themselves, they feel like they're nothing without that relationship. And that's why on my channel, I try to encourage people to take steps to help them with their self-image and their self-respect. And even though they have an anxious attachment style, and even though they may have loved their avoidant more than anything, it's so important that we learn how to let go. And walking away from an abusive or messed up dynamic relationship is a sign of strength. And it is a sign of self-respect and mental health. You know, I do read comments on those channels that try to help avoidant people with their attachment styles. And a lot of times the people in the comments are talking about how much they just want to be left alone. They say terrible things like, oh, I do want to get married, but I would definitely want my own room and my own bed, and I would need several hours after work to just decompress before I could talk to people. And by the way, that's also insulting, because when you are the partner in the relationship, you're not people. You are the partner, the person that you're supposed to value and love and support, number one. So that's why, another reason why we feel minimized, because avoidants are like, I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to deal with people. Okay, I'm not people. I'm supposed to be the priority as your partner. They also say things like they wish that they could have somebody that they could just sleep with, but they don't have to deal with them or talk to them afterwards. Comments like this are exploitative and disgusting. You're going to end up with a situation where the anxious person is even more traumatized than they were before they got into that relationship in the first place. And this is the reason why you see people online that's like, dear avoidance, please stop dating. I mean, if you want someone to sleep with you and not have an opinion afterwards, well, this is America. So why don't you go ahead and find somebody who's consented to a relationship where their opinion does not matter? You know, people who are okay with being used and not being able to have a voice afterwards. And that is definitely a huge reason that anxious people get so triggered by their avoidant breakups, because avoidants take away a very human side of you, which is your voice. And here's how I really feel about it. When I was growing up, I grew up in a household where my dad was extremely dismissive and my mom was incredibly anxious, and everyone was miserable, and it was abusive on both sides. Now, back then there was no internet, there's no cell phones, there's no Google, and there certainly wasn't, I mean, I'm sure attachment styles existed, but no one had a name for it. But I'm positive that everyone around my parents who knew them, they were married for a long time, they knew those two people shouldn't be together. My dismissive dad, he would do things purposefully to create distance in the relationship. Like, it was always really important to my mom that we had family dinners every night together. And so what my dad would do is he would get busy with work, but he really wasn't. It was just to sort of drive her crazy. But at the same token, my mom really never gave him an inch. And God bless my mom, if you're watching this, I love you. She really could never let anything go, and she still has a hard time letting this relationship go, and I get it. She invested so much into that relationship, but I also understand from what I remember as a kid, I was in on a couple of their therapy sessions, and just having known them for 40 years, I can imagine that in therapy, a lot of it was demonizing or really hyper-focusing on everything that my dad was doing wrong in the relationship. And the thing about dismissive avoidance is they learned a survival mechanism when they were a little kid, which is basically numb out, shut down, kind of ignore everything that's overwhelming, that's probably negative going on around you. Now, if you take an avoidant and suddenly tell them that they're not allowed to have that survival mechanism anymore. Oh yes, it served them their entire childhood. It's how they learned to deal with the world. But nope, you're not allowed to have it anymore. I'm going to take that away from you. Well, I bet dollars to donuts, they're not going to give it up so easily. So the dismissive person holds on to their survival mechanism and the anxious person holds on to everything. And when I was a little kid, I wasn't a psychologist or a therapist. I didn't know anything about this stuff. But even I knew that these two people shouldn't be together. I knew how unhappy I was, and I just wanted the anger to stop. And it creates this environment where none of their children grew up with really healthy relationships. And do I blame my avoidant dad? Yeah. Do I blame my anxious mom? Yeah, because the bottom line is they were the adults in the situation, and one of them should have taken the responsibility of saying, you know what, this isn't good for anyone involved, and I need to step out of this situation. If anything, for the sake so that our children can grow up having a better model of healthy relationships. If it's in an avoidance nature to never really close the door on the relationship, then unfortunately it is up to the anxious person in the end to completely close the door. And in doing this, we protect ourselves. And that's a big reason why I have this channel encouraging anxious people to shut the door. Let go, because I know that you guys are up against it, because the entire world gaslights your breakup experience. You weren't allowed to say your piece at the end of the breakup, because a lot of times avoidants do it over text. They block you and they disappear, or they don't block you, but they leave you on red indefinitely. And then, you go online and there's all these YouTube videos telling you about how now it's your time to be strong for the avoidant person and stay there forever, teaching them that you're a safe place for them. And then on top of that, you have the entire rest of the world telling you, just get over it. Or, hey, they just weren't that into you. And I had a woman on my comments last week. She said the exact same thing. She was like, Maria, babe, just get over it. The fact that you have to make excuses for people to have, they have to have mental health issues to not be interested in you, that's so toxic. And I will say that there have been times in my past, I dated for almost 20 years. The dismissive avoidant breakup, while it did bring out every demon I ever had in my entire life, it wasn't the only kind of breakup that I went through. And there were men that I dated that simply were not interested. And because of my attachment wound, I couldn't let it go. And I take 100% responsibility for that. But when you have the world telling you that this avoidant person, just get over it, they weren't that into you, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I guess when he showed that he was interested in me and asked me out on a date, he wasn't that into me, right? Or when he was telling me that he hadn't dated anybody in a long time and he was waiting for someone just like me who was really special. I guess he just wasn't that interested. When he was telling me how beautiful I was and texting me all day long, maybe he wasn't that interested. When he told me that he loved me on Valentine's Day, maybe he wasn't that interested. And a week after that, when he sent me a text out of nowhere telling me that he wasn't that interested and he needed to take some space from the relationship, you know what? You're right. I guess he wasn't that interested. How would I ever have known that? People are upset because we feel gaslit and we feel taken advantage of. And part of the reason why I wanted this platform was for people who never really got a chance to tell their story. They have a place that they can go, and they can finally, maybe for the first time, talk to me or other people and say the things that they were never allowed to say. I have never been an avoidant. I can't fathom what it would be like to fall in love with someone. And, when I love somebody, I want to spend more time with them. I don't know how it feels the other way around. I can't give advice on how to help heal avoidant people. And honestly, from my experience, if I had to give you any advice, it would be, please stop dating people who get so excited about you and you can tell that they want to spend a lot of time with their partner, and maybe do what my dad did. Or actually, maybe we can all do what both my parents did. All these years later, my parents have not changed, but they have changed the kind of people that they surround themselves with. My still highly avoidant dad found a woman that he's been dating for a few years now. They're perfectly, seemingly happy together, and they only see each other one time a week and Christmas. He found a girlfriend who was okay with that. No muss, no fuss. My mom, now when she invites people to dinner, she sure as heck doesn't invite avoidant people like my dad. She invites friends and family, where when they get an invitation, they say yes and they show up, and everything is just really peaceful. Now, do I think my parents could be happier if they healed a little more? Absolutely. But at the very least, they have more peaceful lives, which I do believe are happier. You see, I knew that I had wasted too much time on people who didn't value me, but man, that realization didn't truly smack me in the face until I had my daughter. And I realized how close I had come to missing that kind of an opportunity in life because I was too busy dicking around with guys who didn't appreciate me and didn't value the relationship and were ambivalent and couldn't make a decision. Well, you know what? I made a decision. I sat down and painted my nails and decided I'm going to mind my own business. And yeah, I'm going to do some healing, and I'm going to figure out why I feel like I need these people in the first place. And when I began to do that, my dating life got so much better. See, here's the thing. I knew I had to start this channel when I had my daughter, because she never has to live my life, thank God. But she sure as heck can learn from it. And I want her to learn from it, because here's the key to all of it. When you love someone, and I love my daughter, when you love someone, you do not want them to be hurt. You don't want to purposefully take actions that hurt the other person. That's it. If you're in any kind of relationship where someone goes out of their way to make you feel stupid, or make you feel unsafe, or make you feel unheard or unseen or tortured, it's time to let go. Letting go is hard because it means that you are admitting defeat. I mean, it basically means that you're admitting that all of the energy and everything that you've invested in that relationship and in the other person, I mean, it was all for nothing. And that's why a lot of us, we cannot let go of this idea that we need closure and we need an apology. But I'm telling you that one of these days, you will finally realize that what you honestly need is peace. And my God, you deserve it. But I gotta say, if what you're looking for in relationships is silence and space, well, no. I guess you're not gonna like my channel that much, because you're not gonna get any of that from me. Hey, I'm an anxious attacher. To the moon and back. I'll follow you anywhere. My name is Maria Adriana. You did not have to live my life, but I certainly hope you can learn something from it. As always, thank you for visiting The Other Half.